what am I trying to sponsor? Jesus, I've not had enough coffee. Here in a minute, but welcome Gregory, for the first time on the show. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm really excited to talk to you guys this morning.
Absolutely, dude. So to get through them, I'm struggling for words today. It's been a wild week. We'll get into that. Shout out to Sam Alicia Bev Assets, Ryan Hallner and On the Rocks Advisors, obviously myself and Alias Advising, and Jay Williams and Freebird and all of his huge NASCAR promo lately. There's our obligatory Freebird can.
You know what? We're crushing NASCAR though. When it's on Drink Up, man, this is what's driving all this.
That's right. I want you to remember that, Jay. NASCAR didn't do shit for your brand, or at least not as much as Drink Up has.
We got them to NASCAR, quite frankly, because they said, "Hey, who are those boys on Drink Up?" And they're like, "Yeah, we got to pick this up. This is a real thing. Because they're on Drink Up." So.
Oh, that's funny shit. Well, Greg, welcome, dude. Obviously, you and I have known each other for a few years. You're good shit. You've got a wild background, so take it wherever you want. But give us the who the fuck is Greg, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, most definitely. I can tell you a little bit about my story. I obviously think it's completely normal, but every time I tell people about myself, they're like, "This is really, really wild." But grew up small town Wisconsin kid, nothing fancy, nothing fun. Desperately wanted to get out of the Midwest, and then magically came into rock climbing of all things in the Midwest, which is pretty difficult. If you grew up in Wisconsin, there's not many rocks, but really fell in love with rock climbing. And then instead of then hitting high school graduation, I literally got on a bus, went out to California, and I did not come home for probably another 3 years, and just basically hitchhiked around, rock climbed all through America, managed to pick up some sponsorships, nothing too crazy. And then past that, kind of worked in the outdoor industry throughout my 20s. I built climbing walls, did gym management, did some conservation policy work, you name it, pretty much did anything to get a paycheck and keep climbing every day. And so in my late 20s, realized it's good to have money, it's good to have health insurance, and realized I couldn't do that any longer. So jumped into college for the first time, did my undergrad in my late 20s, and then magically, my first job out of college was working in customer service for Saputo Cheese. So I fell into the food industry just kind of by chance, but
You studied food science?
no, just business.
Okay.
Business. In retrospect, it kind of makes sense for me. I grew up kind of more in an agricultural community. I have a lot of friends who work in ag. So to work post farm gate, kind of felt comfortable, kind of felt like home. Yeah, and then past that, just worked my way through customer service, fell into sales. Sold a wide variety of ingredients. It's always been kind of B2B ingredients, working in terms of like application work, formulation, and the like. And went ahead, got more educated along the way, picked up a MS in Ag Econ from Purdue, got my MBA in Food and Agribusiness from Kelley School of Business at IU. And yeah, currently I'm a senior sales manager over at a company called Maloney, and I'm really focused around alternative proteins at the moment.
Where are you based on Indiana?
Chicago.
Chicago. Okay.
Yeah. I
So
went
much
to
for getting out of the
south of the
Midwest.
Wisconsin border and went into enemy territory. So I got to hold it down for the Packers here in Bears territory.
100%. So, it makes me fucking smile every time somebody's like, yeah, it's not that weird. Like, Fido at the lab, before he ever got into beverage, discovered a new species of penguin. Like, that's not bullshit. That happened. Chris Slanga over at Red Boot was a touring musician, and I think at least once, if not a couple times, was on Warped Tour here in the States. Yeah, like, so when you're like, yeah, I got sponsored, it's not that big a deal. Fuck you, right? Like, that's good shit. A. B, I love that after all of that, we've talked about this before, you were like, I got my master's, did rock climbing, I'm gonna have a kid. Like, it's time to be a dad. Like,
Yeah, my only advice is do not get your master's education while your wife's pregnant. It's tough. My wife's a warrior. She held down the house and everything, so I appreciate that. But yeah, if you're thinking about having kids, wait before or after grad school. That's for sure.
oh, it's fucking funny. Oh man. Well, just so we can say we did. tell us about. So we met back in the day, or not so much back in the day, a few years ago when you were at Sensient, and so clearly you've got a food science background, you've got an ag background. Just because I would kick myself if we didn't, tell us a little bit about Meiluni and what you guys are working on, because I think for a lot of people, even just conversations I have, protein continues to be a fucking word that we're not going to stop hearing for a while. I know you guys offer other stuff as well, but tell us a little bit about that, what you guys have going on.
Yeah, basically, Meiluni in a nutshell, it's a Dutch-based company out of Amsterdam. They are commodity traders, and they've been commodity traders since 1867, I think is the exact date. So they've been in the game quite some time, primarily focused around kind of plant-based ingredients, agriculturally derived ingredients. So that's going to be fibers, starches, proteins, sweeteners, etc. So I came on this year to really focus on their fava bean production. They opened up their first production facility here over the last few years, and we're kind of just doing the initial business development here in America. So it's a really exciting time. It's a historical, commodity trading group that's owning their own production facility for the first time, really kind of stepping their feet into the future. So really excited to be part of that. But yeah, as you said, protein is all the rage, whether it's whey, alternative proteins, etc.
I think you'd be putting protein in the Freebird anytime soon, like water. Serious question, by the way.
Hey, let's make it happen. But
It's
yeah.
Well, yeah.
Is that possible?
It's well.
Possible.
Do you want it to taste good?
Well, can you figure out a formulation where it could taste good? You don't notice the proteins there because everybody needs protein, evidently.
I mean,
Well, I'm sitting there eating my popcorn and sweet tarts and milk duds.
right? Yeah, exactly. No
And
shit.
there's protein versions of all those out
And
right
run-
now, that's for sure.
Yeah. Fucking A. So walk us through a little bit, and this is something you and I have gone over, and I've talked to other groups like God, what was her name? Super sweet woman. Shit. Select Custom Solutions is the company name, and I've got her emails here somewhere. But essentially, I've started meeting more and more folks in kind of that commodity brokerage space, and so for people who may not know, that's you guys move in different circles, volume wise, and things like that than maybe the average material provider. So walk us through that just a little bit.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Obviously, in all my stops beforehand, we were the producers of the material here stateside. So, like, if I was doing flavors, obviously we made flavors here in America, ice cream ingredients, the like. That was all done here. But when you take it a step further, what are those compounds that go into, let's say, like a cookie dough inclusion, right? There's obviously some sugar. Where are you sourcing that sugar from? Which always kind of just was a question for procurement, not for me in sales, right? Now jumping into kind of the more commodity space, it's quite interesting. The strength of the commodity players is really two things, I think, in my opinion. Knowing your sources at origin, and there are places all across the globe that produce a wide variety of ingredients, right? So you have to be pretty dialed in at origin. And then past that, it's really, commodity traders are almost more of a logistics team than maybe an ingredient division, right? They're strong globally speaking. They ship by ocean freight everywhere, so they can take it from origin all the way into, let's say, America. And then we pick it up here in America and ship from port all the way to the customer. So it's really kind of interesting. It's definitely a big volume game. That's where they really make up their margin. But it's been interesting jumping in on that side. I feel like I get a little bit more knowledge of kind of where raw materials actually come from, logistics, which is really kind of something that I've never wanted to be exposed to, but getting a pretty big healthy exposure now to it. So that's really interesting.
Sure.
But yeah, just the supply chain in food is quite wild when you think, sugar's sugar, right? But where's the sugar coming from? Where's a certain starch come from? It's not just down the road here in America. It can come all the way from China, Turkey, South America. I mean, you name it. There's a lot of hands in the game moving ingredients to the
Can you explain? I mean, I know what it is, I believe, but what is commodities and how does it work?
I'm trying to think of how you would actually kind of just define it, a commodity. which is
Milk.
actually kind of a question.
Milk
mean,
is a
I'll put-
commodity, right?
I'll put
What's that?
words in you guys' mouth. Like I think of commodities as, and Greg, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think of, and maybe this is a distinction without a difference, but I think of commodity stuff as like items that are more ubiquitous, right? So
Yep.
sugar, citric acid, protein,
Oil.
monk fruit, oil, right? Yeah, right. Like things that have. So like when I talk to Greg, for example, and he knows this, right? Like most of the customers that you and I work with, Sam, are not going to be to the point in the brand of being able to buy truckloads at a time directly from him and his company because they're just not at that level, right? But as we talk to maybe like a co-packer, for example, who says, "Hey, I have 16 brands that all need, you know, a whey isolate or a protein of some sort or a sugar or a whatever, and my annual forecast for all these brands is X, and 80% of them keep fucking dropping the ball on their own ordering and forecasting, so I'm just going to take it on, buy directly from somebody like Greg, put my markup on it, and then resolve those clunkiness issues." There's maybe something there, right? So that's the way
Yeah,
I
my
frame it.
dad was into pigs, as an example. So we had Sparley Slice Ham Store,
Mhm.
and we got pigs from Hormel. And he was able to actually hedge the market, maybe explain that too. So we would actually make a bet, because pigs, I believe, are a commodity, believe it or not. I believe they are.
Yes,
It's food,
100%.
right?
There's a
Cattle,
lot of
right?
there's a
Go ahead.
lot of oddities in agriculture and the commodities section. Obviously,
Yeah.
there's a huge futures market for a lot of things, and this is definitely not my field of expertise, but there's a
Right.
huge futures market for commodities in food and ag that's basically all done out of Chicago. The stock market exchange down there handles a lot of that stuff, but I mean, you look at milk, cheese, etc. They all have future markets against them, particular products, but there's definitely a lot of ways you can hedge yourself in industries that you would never think you have that capability.
Yeah, I was just thinking if I'm a producer, right? Could I like fuel's going up, right?
Yep.
Like as a distributor, we would prepay our fuel, by the way, just to let you know. Like we
Mhm.
would hedge the market. So we wouldn't feel the pain of the change, right? So the people that made the right bet that fuel's going to go up on the distributor side of the business, they're probably okay right now. But does that work in this industry too, where you can hedge, like you can hedge the market a little bit, make some bets that it's going to go up, so buy now, knowing that tomorrow's going to go up?
Yeah, most definitely. It depends on exactly where you are at in the food supply chain and your
Yeah.
specific ingredient. But like if you did dairy, whether it's milk or cheese, I know that they have future options on those. I know Saputo Cheese did a lot of that kind of stuff when I was there, and I remember the guy who ran all that. He basically said, "I've made this place millions, and I've lost this place millions." Right? So
Yeah.
it's basically just like food finance guys out there in their little Patagonia vests, tending to the market and making money and putting themselves hopefully in a better position for the future. So
Yeah,
you
it's
can never.
amazing. I mean, there's so many moving parts, right? And you know, I mean, I'm just the commercial guy, right? So all this stuff, you know, all these decisions are made before they arrive on my desk to go
They
sell
should
it,
be.
right?
They're not.
What's that?
They should be. They're not always.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, someone was asked me the other day, a client, they're going to come out at $39.99. That's their rollout price at case one, and then the on-premise are going to go to like 33 because they can get a buck per cost. But we were talking about the war, and I'm not going political here, but she's like, are people taking price increases right now because of the cost of fuel?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I don't know, but at some point, if it doesn't resolve fairly quickly, they're going to have to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agreed.
Totally.
I think
Yeah.
you're seeing a lot of that already in logistics.
You are, so yeah, logistics, yeah. I mean, used to cost $8 to ship something on average. I think it's up to 16, not to scare everybody, but it's crazy.
No, I mean, I was emailing with shout out to my buddy Brody from Axel Logistics. He just shot me a note the other day saying, "Hey, how's it going?" I was like, "I'm good. How are you?" And he's like, "The freight world's weird right now." I'm like, "The freight world's always fucking weird, bud." But I understand what you're saying. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely having an impact, Sam. I'd be shocked if, I mean, yeah, we could dive into shit on that later, but I would be shocked if there weren't, you know, downstream, like, even in CPG or RTDs, like downstream substantial cost increases coming, no different than you're seeing with fucking eggs or tortillas or anything else. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
it's how much.
assume.
I think inventory is a question too. So how much inventory have they produced already? Where is it located? Probably is the
Mhm.
second question
Mhm.
because they have to ship it or not ship it. But if you're a new brand coming to market, holy cow, man, because you're going to get the brunt of it. I mean, you
Mhm.
don't have the benefit of having inventory and everything produced. So all those labels, cans, protein, all that stuff is going up,
Mhm.
right? Logistics. So you're like, well, I'm trying to compete against brand X. I'm like, yeah, but they already had their inventory. They're already established. They already have their volume.
Mhm.
I mean, it's
Mhm.
just not realistic for you to think you're going to come in at unless they just let it come and weather the storm and this thing's going to resolve. Sorry, I went deep on that.
No, dude, you're
No,
fine.
don't get deterred for how hard it's going to be right now. Food is a really cool place to work in, as we were just talking about, right? You can do, if you're like on the finance side or investments interest you, you can do some interesting like futures work, right? Then we're talking about logistics, and the list goes on, man. Anything you can do in business, you can do it in food, and it's a really really cool industry to
Yeah.
be in at the moment.
So, Greg, tell us a little bit about this newsletter you're writing as I'm scanning it and clicking on the Wise Code link and stuff like that. We'll get into that too.
Yeah, so I think, geez, in 2026, I think everybody has to have somewhat of a, and I hate using this word, but quote unquote personal brand, right? Especially in sales, right? I mean,
Sure.
you have to have a network.
Right.
That's how I make my money, and being able to kind of leverage that and sell my ingredients. So never really wanted to do it. Decided I'll put some effort into it. So made a little website earlier this year, put together a newsletter, and tried to be a little bit more active on LinkedIn. So that was kind of step one so far, is just do something, right? Put myself out
Sure.
there a little bit. Join a podcast too. Why not? You know?
Damn
Uh,
right, man. Just show up. That's okay.
yeah. So
That's half the
don't
battle,
get a
just
little bit
being
on
here.
that.
So thanks for arriving, Greg.
Yeah, there we go. So just trying to do a little bit of that this year, right? So those were kind of my first steps. But in terms of the newsletter, as we were talking about earlier, I'm not going to start my own company. I don't have a cool hip CPG brand, idea at the moment. I mean, I have tons of them,
Oh,
but
come on, man. You can do it. Just jump off the deep end. Just start your own company.
He's got a
after
2-year-old,
going,
man. That deep end's a lot
yeah,
deeper when you got a kid.
yeah, 100%. I like to
Yeah.
spend some time with the kiddo.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I basically every week I just kind of round up all the fun things that I read, whether that's in food, agriculture, cooking, any business things that I find interesting, and I just try to put them all together in just one kind of info dump of a newsletter, and I
That's
send it
cool. So
out.
you arrive there as yourself. You talk about things that you like.
Yeah, pretty much. Nothing that's, I mean, obviously there'll be kind of big time news in the food industry I do want to share, but it's really just my personally curated view of things that I find interesting. And apparently other people find that interesting too. So
You
that's
know
where
what
I'm
I
at.
find interesting about you, by the way, and I was listening, is how you began.
In terms of kind of like climbing back in the day or just popping into the food industry.
Yeah, so many people like me. I got married at 22. I went to college. I followed the path everybody's supposed to follow, right? And
Yeah.
it was very regimented. Okay, at 18 you graduate, you take your SATs, which I did bad at, by the way. You go to college, you get your degree, you get married, you go get the job. I never had any fun, and I'm working all the way through, right? I mean, I wanted to be like a musician. I wanted to travel the world. I want to be an actor. So my son's more like you, where he basically, I think, he kind of started life. He hasn't gone to college yet, right? He's 28. When I heard you said that, I'm like, you know what? I mean, you need to live a lot. We all chase something, but we don't stop and live our life. And I think it's really cool that you did what you were passionate about,
Yeah, I
right?
appreciate it. I mean, it's weird because like obviously in the moment it's like, hey, why wouldn't you want to go live in a tent and rock climb? Like, I'm so psyched on that. Like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, it just doesn't even make sense to me why I wouldn't do that in the moment. In retrospect, I'm just like, God, my mom probably had 52 million heart attacks throughout my 20s when I didn't have cell phone reception. I was in a sleeping bag in the desert. So, God bless her soul for getting through that with me. But yeah, I think, in
I think it's
retrospect,
super cool, man. I think it made you who you are right now. You know?
That's That's what I kind of want to touch on. Like, I think in retrospect, I wouldn't be able to do what I do now, and I wouldn't be as efficient as I am without kind of those soft skills that I developed. Obviously, traveling a bunch, you're meeting so many people, different cultures just here within America. But when you're at the really, really nice kind of high-end climbing spots in America, you're getting tons of people from Europe over here to climb, etc. So, I get to meet all these people from around the world, and then you get into the more soft skills with climbing, right? You get the grit, the perseverance, maybe how you approach climbing has been a really important one for me in retrospect when I look at it, just how I prepare. Climbing is dangerous, right? So there's just a lot of preparation in doing that. So I think in retrospect, like I said, it means the world to me. I would probably do it a little bit differently if I had the chance to redo it now knowing what I know, but I don't regret it by any means.
Are you going to go back to climbing? Like, are you going to climb like Mount Kilimanjaro, or are you going to go climb Everest? Is there like, or climb the four peaks of America? I don't know. I mean, it's like it's in your blood.
It's interesting. I've been out of the game for quite some time. Maybe about 2 years ago, I picked it up again for like a good 6-month run, which was pretty exciting. And then I kind of hurt my back, so I bounced out. But now I watched my kid. He did a really great job climbing over the gate to get up to the stairs over the last few days. And I'm like, man, he's got really good instincts.
He's got it.
He stepped over the gate really well. I'm like, reminds me of somebody I know. So yeah, I think I might dabble my toes in it. I think the biggest thing for me that I miss the most, and I've found a little bit of that over in our world in terms of CPG and food, is the community and climbing is so good. And I really, really miss that. I miss being able to go to the gym on a Friday night and know every single person there, and they know me, vice versa. I really do miss that sense of community. But
Well, you're in our community now, so welcome to Drink Up. You'll forever be in our community now. You're always
that's
welcome to
awesome.
come
That's
back
awesome.
here.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, I mean, it's we've talked about this before, but like, anybody that's talked to me in the last 2 weeks knows that I've been, shamelessly commenting on shit on Reddit. And there was one the other day. It said something. I'm not gonna get it exactly right, but basically it was this guy or girl, I guess. But it was somebody who said, I want to get better at sales, essentially without having to go out and actually do selling. And I think what they meant were like they were looking for like book recommendations or like tutorials or just things to get them more comfortable with selling, which, like, don't get me wrong, is a fair ask. But I was nosy, and so I clicked on it, and sure enough, every comment was like, go do it, 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 go do it. And I was like, not that a 22-year-old can't be a good salesperson, but I think even Sam, in your example of like, I just went and got on the track right away, like,
Yeah, that's it.
you can really only you can really only do so well if you can't just have a fucking conversation with people. Because Greg's the primary example of like, he and I catch up fairly regularly. We haven't had anything to work on together in fucking years. And then the other day he's like, hey, I need a dry blend tolling facility. I'm like, I got you. I talked to a woman 6 months ago. Here you go. Right?
Yeah.
But that's not shit that you think about when you're 20, right? You're just like 20-year-old Adam would have been like, yeah, sorry, man. Like, I don't do that. I don't know anybody, and moved on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey man, I think, it's funny. I think about a close buddy of mine who I kind of mentored very early in his career. He's a food sales rep guy here in his early 20s. And we joke about kind of what's his strength at the moment. Why is he seeing a lot of success, as a young guy, right? Trying to figure it out, trying to understand all these different ingredients, their functionality. Like, it's not an easy place, especially if you don't have a food science background, especially when you're young. And I think one of the things that we always laugh about is he goes, I just ask questions, man. I just ask questions. And you know what? It kind of blew my mind, even as somebody who's been in the game a little bit longer, definitely a lot older than he is as well. It just reminded me, it's like, yeah, just be curious.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you don't have the skill sets on the technical side, you may be lacking. And if you know that, that's fine. You can always get around that. Just be a curious person. Ask questions. That will go so much farther for you in your career than you ever know, right?
I love that. I tell people that when they go to like an on-premise, like we have a client I keep on referring to in LA, Karen. And Karen's like, okay, I hired you to tell me where to go. And I told her and Troy exactly what to do, by the way, on the phone. She's like, did you record this or trying to write it down? And said, just show up at the account, go sit on the bar stool and start asking questions.
Yep.
And like, well, what kind of questions you ask? What are people drinking? What do you recommend? You know, just simple questions. Develop a relationship with a person. They're going to appreciate it. And people love to talk, right? And then you're going to learn something from that conversation. I mean, you know, depending what it is, because I will never tell you I'm an expert at anything, but I love that what you said, be curious.
Yeah, and especially if you're younger, right? You should have no shame when you're in your early 20s because you don't really know anything, generally speaking. So you get a really strong pass to be able to just ask those questions. You know, you don't end
Hey,
up
when
like
you're in your 60s, you don't know anything either. So you just keep on being curious.
For sure. I mean, you end up, you know, working at a commodity place and someone asks what's commodities and then you struggle, right? So
All right.
no shame in my game. Just
Shit,
ask questions
good.
and throw it out there, right?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, you just got another subscriber, Greg, because I'm trying to pay attention to you guys as I'm clicking these links. I also think you guys will get a kick out of this. So Bree's going to grad school to become a therapist, right?
Nice.
And oddly enough, and I couldn't have guessed this in a million years, but she'll be reading like organizational psych books, I think is what they are, like as part of one of her courses. And a few times now, like more than once, these books will be trying to describe like a certain org psych phenomenon of like, you know, kind of the whole like this is the way we've always done it problem that companies run into, and they'll use examples from the food space, right? And so she'll end up sending me screenshots of, you know, shit she's read in her book, and one the other day was like, I think it was Perrier, maybe it wasn't, so nobody sue me, but it was one of the bottled water companies back in the 80s. There was a town in the Midwest that was doing like heavy metal testing or something with using Perrier as the standard, right? So they had their testing water, and then they were coming up with like bad results, right? And so then they went and got secondary testing done of like their water and everything, and then they realized I think it was benzene or something. They realized it was in the Perrier, and so they took it back to Perrier and were like, hey, we found this. Come to find out, Perrier had been marketing it as like natural spring water, like naturally carbonated spring water, but it wasn't. They were taking it from the spring and then carbonating it elsewhere, so obviously that's an artificial process. Well, one of the lines hadn't been cleaned, something correctly, whatever, and they had a problem. They didn't have to do a recall necessarily, but they had to adjust their labeling, they had to redefine their manufacturing process, they had to alter all that shit, all because somebody was using them as the gold standard and it turns out they shouldn't have been, right? And it's shit like that where I'm like, again, if you sit here and go, well, okay, like if you just sit here and say like, all right, well that water brand's good, period, and you don't bother to ask questions, right? You don't bother to be like, well, is there any way this could have gone wrong? That problem goes unnoticed for another 40 fucking years, right? Like, anyway, just, yeah, blows my mind.
Gotta ask those questions, man.
Yeah, it's wild. Well, so you got the newsletter, you're at May Looney, you're a dad. Like, what are you seeing in terms of, and we talked about this a little bit, both before we got on and the other day on our call, like, you know, all of us, we all get asked, like, where's the market going? What's the next big thing going to be? Blah, 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 right? But in your opinion, and take this in whatever direction you want, like, whether it's things you saw at Expo or whatever, like, what are you seeing? Like, obviously you're doing the newsletter. Where do you think the, like, you know, is on-the-go snacks going to be the next thing? Is there still something happening in beverage? Is, you know, the out, like, what in the ALK space, maybe there's something there. Like, what's your perspective?
Yeah, definitely lots to talk about depending on kind of your application and your category. I would say I think one of the interesting things going through Expo West, walking the floor, seeing a lot of really educated marketing folks do their recaps and kind of looking at those post-show. It's interesting because a lot of the trends that you see and people are talking about are all the same trends that I saw and heard about 3 to 4 years ago.
Sure.
That being said, protein continues to kind of have a chokehold on this community for for better or worse. I think eventually we'll start to see that slide a little bit over the next year or two, but I forecast that will be quite a strong trend still for many years.
Sure.
A lot of people talking about fiber. Fiber's been
Sure.
talked about for the last year or two. I think maybe this year is the year you'll see a little bit more traction on it, particularly around maybe not only beverages, but mostly the kind of that on-the-go snacking category.
Sure.
I think fiber is finally going to at least have a little bit of an increase of attention. Past that, I think the more interesting thing is really kind of looking on the food industry and where the kind of the MAHA, Make America Healthy Again movement goes.
Mhm.
Obviously, we've seen a lot of traction in terms of kind of natural colors over the last year. I would
Sure.
imagine that we're going to see a lot more attention on specific ingredients moving forward. How that plays out in industry, I think is kind of interesting. I think in terms of, obviously, there's a pretty strong stance from the government and figures in the government about certain things, whether that becomes true legislation and brands actually are required to do so.
Right.
Who knows? But I think watching that will be interesting. I mean, you see a lot of more natural food, right, in the industry right now. Cottage cheese is kind of having a moment, which is kind of interesting. What
Sure.
a kind of legacy, boring application category is cottage cheese, but that's finally having a moment. And you'll see more kind of just natural foods kind of get tweaked and fall into the hipster, cool, fun CPG space.
Sure.
Trying to think of what else, man. There's just a lot going on. Everybody's doing something. There's always new functional ingredients popping up all the time. But it's,
What do you
it's
think?
a lot of the same. It's a lot of Me Too with minor differentiation. So I think there's still a lot of room for a lot of folks.
What do you think about salts, electrolytes? Like, I keep getting more and more asked about that kind of shit. Like, what's your take on those, or do you have one?
Hey, man, everybody should be hydrated. So I'm not going to be against that.
Sure.
To me, it's interesting as somebody who has exited beverage and hasn't been too heavily involved in beverage in a while. I would assume that in terms of like the dry sticks, that has to be pretty played out at this point. The sachets, I see a ton of them in like TJ Maxx and Ross, all the time now, which
Yeah.
is a clear indicator for me that the space is way saturated.
Yeah.
In terms of like an RTD, you think there's plenty of options out there at this point. But everybody wants a slice of the pie, so I could see that kind of maybe the electrolytes and hydration start to take more of a functional edge, and you start to see other ingredients creep in as a way to kind of carve out your own little space in that segment. Maybe it's like a functional mushroom blend or something on top of that.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, I think it seems kind of saturated to me. But I always feel that way about a lot of things, and it continues to grow, and there's like 30 more brands that pop in overnight. So maybe I'm not the best call of that.
Well,
Sure.
usually when you're talking about it, you're too late.
Yeah,
Right.
keep it
Yeah.
real simple. That is a great statement to make, Samuel.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
Sam, are you
once
seeing?
it's already out there, like protein, if you're getting the protein now, you're late. What's the next big thing? I don't know. To find
So, I
that.
mean, Sam, are you seeing? Because shit, in the last, and I'll give one of them credit, and I won't share what it was because I think it is, to Greg, to your point, it's enough of a tweak that maybe there's something there. I talked to one gentleman in the last few weeks who had an electrolyte forward beverage that I thought, okay, like, I'll give you credit, that could be something. But for most of the other ones, I'm like, it's been done, right? So, I mean, Sam, are you getting asks on electrolytes and hydration and shit still, or has that tapered off?
No, I think people are trying to get into a category that's already going and it's starting to go the other way. And it's
Yeah.
like, look at something else. I mean,
Yeah.
I love talking to brands. I mean, like no one exists like it. It's like, that's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah.
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 So I think trying to find out what the next big thing is. I mean, and we were kind of touching on. I think people are looking for, ingredients that are real ingredients. I guess.
Well, it's funny, Greg. You mentioned protein and fiber, and we had the Leyline folks that I introduced you to. They were on a couple weeks ago, and Charlotte made the comment. She's like, everybody wants to, fucking scream from the rooftops how much they want protein and fiber, and she's like, just eat beans, just eat beans.
Exactly.
Hey,
Just
but
eat beans.
You've been
I
seeing
mean,
that even, and if you walked Expo, you see some of the cool kind of the hip CPG brands. There's definitely a big emergence of kind of those smaller niche things. There's some really cool bean brands out there right now. They're doing like a blend of beans with some spices and flavors. They're doing some cool work. You've seen that with, I think there's a handful of brands that brought back sardines from basically death and brought it to mainstream now. There's definitely some really cool hip sardine brands. I'm trying to think of, I'm totally gonna whiff on the name, but it's like Fisherman's Wife or something like that.
Yep.
They do really cool packaging. There's spaces in food left that you could do some really interesting work in, and it's going back to the more commoditized staple ingredients that you'd find in your pantry. There's a lot of cool stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, we can have for Thanksgiving ham. you know, I'm not going to have build a better burger. What do you call it? Like some made up chemical ingredients because I'm trying to be healthy. It's like what I'm going to drink with it: wine, real wine. That's actually like real wine from the Mother Earth. So, and nothing against the people that are trying to develop this other stuff, but that's my concern. I was at Starbucks the other day, and Susan was all excited. She goes, "Hey, I'm gonna get you a protein matcha drink." I'm like, "Really? Is that really gonna make an impact on me? The protein matcha drink?" I think that there's too much of anything's a bad thing, by the way. And if we have everything laced in all these chemicals and all this stuff, like someone posted, maybe it was you, Adam, but someone posted about like all these products that are coming out, innovation, and all the innovation hits. Do you know the percentage of innovation that fails that comes to market? Do you know that number? I do.
It's got to be staggering high, I would imagine.
85% of
like
all
90%.
products that come to market, to 90%. Are not there. And you know why the big manufacturers come out with it? And anybody can challenge me on it, but this is what I believe. You know why they come out with innovation?
To drive sales of their existing product.
Drive sales of their existing product. They have the capacity and to make their numbers and to keep the small guys out.
We've talked about this before. You and I talked about this a while ago, but there was a gentleman. I worked with him back at BevSource. I can see his face. I'm having an awful day with names, but he worked for Pepsi for a little while. Mm-hmm. And you're spot on. He told me straight up. He's like, we would come out with at least one new, Starry or fucking Pepsi with orange or whatever the fuck it is every year, right? He's like, Coke does the same shit. Keurig Dr. Pepper. He goes, we know that product's likely not going to last, but based on our size and our supply chain, anytime we launch a new product, overall brand sales, like bottom line, just revenue, everything, usually sees a 1% to 2% bump.
Yeah.
He's like, so they will fucking drop millions of dollars to start a brand they know isn't going to make it just to see that 1% to 2% bump every year. I'm like, that's fucking
I sold morning foods and snacks for the Kellogg Company, and my garage was full of samples. Like Pop-Tarts, they would come up with like 5 different flavors of it. But you know what? Blueberry always outsold all of them.
Right.
And strawberry, the basics, the whole bit. I'm not saying that poo-poo innovation, but that's where I think small brands can win. I'm interested, Gregory, how you think a small brand can win because they get blocked out. But I think that's where true innovation comes from. It's not. I know the big guys can innovation, but think about it. Molson Coors just bought Monaco, right? So the big guys they're sitting back. They'll come up with their innovation. They know that's not going to stick and to drive the numbers, right? But what can a small brand do in this space, in your space, to compete? I would love to hear your point of view because a lot of people follow us that are starting out and we just talked about what category should I get into, but what could they do in this space?
A lot, but I mean, let's take it back to the start, right? And I think obviously both of you guys will kind of have some insight and agree to this to some extent. Get really dialed into why you're in this space, and when in terms of your product, the why of your product, the ethos of your brand, etc. There's far too many people who show up in this space, and this is maybe my hot take. There's far too many people who show up in this space in terms of I want to make money because I have a cool idea. You want to make money? Don't come into CPG. Don't come into food. This is one of the hardest industries to quote unquote make money. I know you see the big M&As. You see,
the dog resonated, by the way.
What was that?
Adam's dog just lost his
Right.
mind when he said that.
Your
'cause it's
dog
so
agrees. Yeah.
Don't come in this space if you want to make money. I always tell founders, I'm like, when am I going to make my money? On the exit, if you do.
Yeah, if you're planning for the exit at the start, I mean, listen, people do it and some people do it quite well. I'm not going to knock it, man. There's obviously many examples of it out there in our industry, and I think that's some good marketing. It's kind of bad marketing for us who work in it. But yeah, get really dialed into why you want to do this. Do we really need another electrolyte drink? No, we don't. I had a friend reach out like a week or two ago, and I know I talked to Adam about this. He goes, where do you see the gap in the energy drink market? What gap? What hasn't been done already? Like, let's just be real about that. But then I told Adam, here's the funny thing. I said, show me the person who wants to make the Red Bull of sleep. That's $1 billion idea, in my opinion. You find me somebody who's going to make a really cool drink focused around sleep and can prove claims, etc. Man, you're going to make a lot of cash, especially with how big energy drink industry is. These people got to unwind at the end of the night. If not, they're
Well,
not.
the last thing I want to do is to take a Red Bull at 61. I can tell you that right now. I'm the guy that's looking for the sleep drink because I'm waking up at freaking 3 a.m. trying to go back to sleep.
Yeah, no.
So that is that is a $1 trillion idea.
If someone's out there, make it happen. Obviously, you got to talk to Adam to get all your beverage and consulting needs first and foremost, and then come to me for ingredients. We'll make it happen. But yeah, just really dial in on the why, man. I think there's a lot of people out there with not the right intentions in the food space, and this is just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But get that squared away, and then obviously it goes down to really understanding what the customer needs, and diving into the demographics, doing all the hard research that a lot of brands don't want to do up front. Understand who your consumer is, what exactly they're asking of a product for, and how does your product match that? Everybody's idea is their baby, and I'm not going to knock on that. If I had a beverage brand, let's say, I would think it's probably the greatest beverage brand in the world, right? Because I'm doing it. It's my baby. I'm excited about that. Everybody's kid is beautiful, right? Sometimes kids are ugly. It is what it is.
You gotta tell them though. I had a brand that we were recording. It's a distiller in Texas, and him and his wife asked a series of questions, totally fair questions. One of the questions is, what does success look like? What a successful brand? What are your successful brands doing that make them successful, and what are your unsuccessful brands doing, right? And you know what I told them?
Give it to us.
The successful brands are patient. They invest. They show up and work the market. They're partners. The unsuccessful brands are impatient. They have no plan. They don't invest. I mean, it's that simple. And like you said, they understand their why and where they're going. But then they'll ask, well, how many cases do you think you can do for me? I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know how many cases I can do for you. I promise you activity. I promise you, I'll go talk to 20 people a week, and I'll give you that feedback. We'll pitch pods, displays, cases, menus. I don't know how many cases I'm going to sell.
Yeah.
But once I see trends, sure. I'll be like, hey, look, I'm in the marketplace. I've did 200 cases last year. I know through trends that you can do X for sure. But patience is the one I see all the time. People get impatient. They're so close to the finish line. A broker or someone like Adam, they get them all the way there, and then they get impatient and they move on to the next thing.
Yeah. I mean, that makes me think a little bit about, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong in this, because I know you'll know a little bit better than I. But like, if you look back at Celsius, right? Celsius is huge, one of the most popular energy drink brands out there. They were pretty much close to throwing in the towel at one point, right? And they've been around so much longer than people expect. They were patient through that. They've adjusted their claims and how they go to market, et cetera. And now look at them. I mean, at no point could you go into a grocery store and even probably find Celsius maybe 10 to 15 years ago. If they've been around that long, I think so. And now you could pretty much. Yeah, it's been a long time, right?
They're pushing north of 20, and they were once in glass bottles, which I continue to find people who don't know that.
Yeah,
right.
That's what I'm saying. But that's that patience.
That's so important what you both just said. You told the Celsius story. They were close to cashing it in. And then, Adam, you just said They're north of 20 years. But everybody thinks that they're going to scale it and sell it in 3 to 5. Everybody's like, yep, the plan is in 3 to 5 years, we're going to scale and sell this. I'm like, hey, man, I hope you do. And the people that do that, great for them, but they're doing a disservice to the founders that what the reality is. You should plan to try to scale in 3 to 5 years. I think that's fine. But you got to be prepared to have enough runway to keep you going for the next 10. And I tell you, I was on Seed Money with Jayla. Jayla's going to come on with us. Siciliano, I'm probably butchered your name, Jayla. But anyway, she actually had a brand. Get this. Her partner on that brand was Mark Cuban.
Wow.
Mark Cuban. She was, matter of fact, it's funny, she called me 15 years ago looking for distribution in Minnesota, and I don't even know if I followed up with her. Anyway, she forgave me. But the point is, she went after it for 9 years. She closed it down, and she had Mark Cuban as a partner, a beverage brand out of San Diego.
Yeah, I talked to again, I wish we need to find a way, Sam, to get these posts on, even if it's clips, onto Reddit. I'm sure there's a way to do it. I'm just not tech savvy enough to know it off the top of my head. But I talked to
you got me on Reddit, by the way. Just finish your thought.
I know.
That's the dark side of the internet. It's good, man. You'll get addicted. I love Reddit.
It's great. I talked to a woman the other day who didn't have an NDA, first phone call, didn't even tell me what her idea was, just said that she had it and she wanted to pursue it, and so she was interested in kind of learning more about the industry. And so we're talking, and she said something to me that was she said, I really want to learn CPG. I'm in tech right now, and I really want to learn CPG, so I thought I would start a brand, which A, I'm going to come back to that statement, right? B, she goes, I asked her the question, I said, well, why do you want to do this? What's your why, right? What's your reason why I want to do this? And she goes, well, I think it's a good idea. And I was like, it'll be a good product. And I said, that's why you think it'll be successful. That's not what I asked you. What I asked you is, why do you want to do this? Are you trying to grow it and sell it? You trying to hand it off to your kids? Are you trying to fucking take down Pepsi? What's the tell me, right? And she couldn't answer the question.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not doing that to be mean. I'm doing that to illustrate a point. If you don't know, don't bother. I said, what I recommend you do if you truly want to learn CPG instead of hemorrhaging all of your money, go get a part-time job stocking shelves at Whole Foods. That will teach you more and fucking actually put money in your pocket than starting a brand ever could if you are fucking have no money and know nothing right now. You will shoot yourself in the foot, the fucking arm, and the neck, right? Please don't do this. And she was like, okay, right? I think I scared her a little bit, which, don't get me wrong, I wasn't trying to be mean, but I got my point across, right? But it's just, Reddit's a wild spot, man, because it's folks like that. Hey, I want to start this. You should really think about what
brand I've been talking about, 613. I'm sure Karen and Troy will forgive me for saying it. 613, and she's launching in Los Angeles, and she is very clear where she came out with that brand. She said, "I came out with it. I'm a cancer survivor.
Sure.
I needed to find a modifier that I could would taste good in a drink because I went through chemo, and I couldn't find anything that tasted good in a drink. So she developed this modifier." And it's brilliant. As a matter of fact, it mixes with anything. I gotta eat a bottle. You gotta taste this, Adam, in terms of what it is. But the point is, she's very clear why she came out with it, and
cool.
she tells her story. And she just got into Alabama with R&DC, and she's tying in with Tito's with her drinks.
Sure.
And she's going in 150 stores in Alabama, and we're getting ready to launch her in Los Angeles. So I love what you said, Greg, your why, and you asking the why, Adam, is I believe if founders are really clear what they want to do and they're really focused, they can be very successful.
Well, I'm curious. Sorry,
can I jump in here, Adam? I would say too, one thing that I think is really, really interesting is that we kind of get to the end of this conversation. Once you dial in that why too, it's just figuring out how far you want to take it. I think that's interesting. I think in this space we see these big numbers in terms of Poppy got bought out by Pepsi, right? And we see all these big flashy numbers and big names, but what I find really, really interesting, and Samuel, this is kind of touching on what you talked about, how far do you want to take it? Everything that you do, there's this concept in America that you must monetize every single hobby you have. You got to make money, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. For me, like if I started a company, I have an idea, right? Do I need to get it to a certain amount of revenue to find satisfaction in that? Do I have to have it acquired and exit to be, satisfied with that? I think at the end of the day, you have so many ways of selling because of technology, the internet, social media. You can jump on TikTok Shop and make a lot of money on TikTok Shop. You can meet people on Reddit and talk about your brand. I think there's a level of just figuring out where you want to be. If you're comfortable, like myself, if I started a brand and I could make 50 grand, 25 grand of profit every year, I would be over the moon. I wouldn't need to push it any farther. Like I'm
A
doing
lifestyle brand, right? That's just a lifestyle. You're doing something you
Yeah.
enjoy.
just, when you double down on the why and you figure out like how far you want to take things, I think you can talk about if you want to be a birder on TikTok, you can probably make 50 grand a year right now. And if you're happy with 50 grand a year,
I'm going to do that, by the way. I'm going to be a birder.
yeah. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You can figure out whatever your hobby is. I mean, food aside, right? Whatever your hobby is, you can figure out ways to kind of monetize that, stay true to yourself and kind of live
Right.
within your means and be happy with that. That should still apply to a lot of folks in food. Hey, you're not going to be the next Poppy. I think
Yeah.
that's a big ask of anybody. But you could have a really strong regional brand and be like, an energy drink in the Midwest that people really, really love, and you make a good living there, and it doesn't have to go farther than that or be more than it is, right?
I love that. I love that. So my grandfather founded a window company, Anderson Windows and Doors. But suffice to say, it sold to Alcam, Lumcom of Canada, and then disappeared because he had an agreement with SEN not to ever promote it. But then my uncle refounded it like 30 years ago, and he built a strong regional window company. Not trying to be Anderson Windows and Doors, but it's Anderson with an O, look for the sun. And they do very well. They're not trying to be everywhere and be everything to everyone. They're very focused in their markets and what they do. And they're making, they live very good lives,
Yeah.
and they do very good. So you don't have to be, or, we always talk about Adam at Carbless. Hopefully he'll come on at some point. But I mean, that guy built a $70 million brand in like 2 states, and now he's everywhere. But he did very focused. He went an inch wide and a mile deep, and he built his area. So I love what you said, Greg. I'm totally aligned.
Yeah, and I could imagine. I mean, obviously, I don't want to speak for him, but if he just had his stuff in the Midwest, he was probably making a decent little living, and he was probably happy with that. Hey, whatever inspires him to go bigger than that, that's great for him. It's obviously a great product, but there's nothing wrong with it.
They're like rock stars now. They're going into the stratosphere. Adam, you should take the last question with the last few minutes.
I will, but I have to share a story quick that I've been meaning to tell you. So I was home in Iowa a couple days ago. I'm going to be back later today. I don't get to see my family too often because obviously they're down there, and even when I do, they're busy, kids and all that. And so I had the rare chance to sit and just have a drink with my sister. Just me and her, no kids, not our folks, just catch up, brother and sister. And I stopped at the store and got a few beers before I went over there, thinking like, hey, we'll split this 4-pack, whatever. So I go over there, I'm like, hey sis, you want a beer? And she goes, no, I'm gonna have one of my seltzers. I'm like, okay, it's fine. So she opens her fridge. What does she grab? Fucking pineapple carbless. Right? Lives in a town of 5,000 people in bumfuck Iowa, 40 minutes north of the Missouri border, and she keeps carbless in her fridge. And every bar of the 3 that are in town carries that shit. Now, bear in mind, these are bars that 10 years ago I could go into and be like, hey, can I get a Bud on draft? They'd be like, we don't have draft, it's bottles only. Oh, okay, right? And they fucking carry carbless. So that's my carbless story for the day.
That is amazing.
So,
Yeah.
dude, it's wild. She pulled that out of the fridge and my jaw hit the fucking floor. I'm like, okay, cool. So Greg, before we go, we asked you everybody this question. I'm sure you saw it if you watched all the episodes. What's your difference between success and failure?
Holy shit! No, I didn't get that far. Apparently, in the podcast, that one's pretty deep. I think it's that personal lens of what you think success is versus what you think failure is. Like, in my opinion, I've never failed at anything.
Sure.
Because it's always just been a learning experience, and there's definitely a lot of things that I've done wrong that I wish I could change, and I definitely regret in my life. But it is what it is, right? You just have to be honest with yourself and take your learnings, take your lickings every now and then. And then in terms of success, it's that personal definition of what it is, man. Like, I'm not that attached to money. Like, it's not going to be a monetary thing for me. In many different ways, I find myself quote unquote rich. So yeah, I think it's just I think the definition of success maybe is just being really comfortable with that idea of what success is to me. I think that's a success in itself, right? And, hey, when you fail, it's not a big deal, man. Like I said, I've never failed. I don't take that upon myself. I've learned a lot of different things. There's probably about 1,000 ways I've messed up some really simple tasks, moments in my life, etc. It kind of is what it is. And you just kind of keep on moving forward. You're a very small speck of sand in the cosmos, man. No one's going to care if you failed for 10 years.
We're stardust.
I would say I love talking to you for several reasons, obviously, as we've stayed in touch over the years. But one of them is because to look at you, you'd be like, that guy has a mortgage and a family and like responsibilities. And then to hear your talk, you're like, yeah, man, that guy lives in a van and he travels and he might have showered in the last 3 days, but like he's just a child of the universe, right? And I fucking love it, dude. That's a phenomenal answer.
Hey, man, you can't take yourself too serious around here. You really can't. That's just my personal
No,
opinion.
dude, I think it's no, for sure, dude. That's fantastic.
The world's in trouble.
Yeah.
It's a quote. We all can't laugh at ourselves.
Yeah, we're all just figuring it out, man.
100%.
Yeah.
I thought if you told me this is where I'm at in my life when I was 18, and this is the amount of money you're making, you own a house, you have a wife, you have a kid, you'd be like, oh man, I'm living like a king, life's great. It's no different from 37 versus 18. Like, I'm still just having a blast. I still act like a kid. Still just curious, having fun. And if I can keep that up for another 40, 50 years, that might be my definition of success. If I can still just be curious and having fun and having a good time for the next 40, 50 years, life well lived.
Man.
Fucking preach, dude. It's
love it.
Absolutely. Well, I'm getting text that my grandmother is on the move. So with the last few minutes we have, again, A, thank you, Greg, for your time. B, I put gregorybarr.food in the chat. If folks want to find you, is LinkedIn best? If they want to reach out and pick your brain?
Yeah, I'm a cliche 2026 salesperson. Find me on LinkedIn. We can talk. Whether you need some
perfect.
ingredients, if you need help with anything in the industry, I know enough people I can point you in the right direction if I can't help you myself. Yeah, just reach out if you want to read my newsletter. That's cool. I put together a lot of goofy, fun stuff in our space. So it's a nice, quick way to kind of check in weekly what's going on, in my opinion. And then, yeah, always happy to talk shop with anybody, whether it's food, agriculture, cooking. We do really cool stuff in terms of, feeding people, which I think is one of the most important things you can do. So always excited to talk about that.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to meet you. Also,
Yes.
you're exactly where you need to be at this moment. You're my hero because you did something I didn't have the guts to do. You did what you wanted to do, and I felt like I had to do something because I had to do it. Not necessarily because I wanted to, but I got that job. I wanted to get married. Sorry, Susan. I have my 40-year anniversary coming up, but but I did get that job, and I took the job because I wanted to make money and I wanted to put food on the table. So that's been, embedded in me. But there's some things I missed, and I'm having fun, being an entrepreneur doing this. It's not for the faint of heart, but I wish I would have done it sooner. But I always took the safe path. And it seems to me that you prepared yourself well your path was not safe by no means in a lot of ways.
In retrospect, no, not by any means.
Yeah, right. So I just really appreciate that. That's what resonated this conversation, and more importantly, just meeting you. So thank you very much. Adam, you want to wrap us up on the finish, and we'll call it a day?
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hope you got a chance to learn something. Obviously, check out Greg's newsletter for insights and things going on in the industry. And if you need something, if you need a commodity brokered, you know where to find him. And beyond that, I hope you all enjoy your Saturday. You guys stay on for a second while we download, and we'll see you all next week.